but never mind. And now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to give this soup a little try. So I'm just going to... Oh, that's really good. And I'm just going to dunk a bit of the beetroot chickpea flour wrap into the soup because it has to be done. That's really nice as well. They really complement each other very well. Hi everyone and welcome back to Googie's Kitchen, and if you are new here then hello and welcome. My name's Alexis, and in today's video I want to share with you how to make a creamy fennel and asparagus soup with a beetroot chickpea flour wrap. As I just mentioned, today I want to share with you how to make my delicious creamy fennel and asparagus soup with a beetroot chickpea flour wrap. I'm glad I got that out. So this recipe is really easy to make, but it is quite time consuming. However, the efforts are worth the results. This is a delicious dish, I promise you, but it is very simple, honestly. So what I've done is I've preheated my oven, and while my oven was preheating I also put in a baking tray as well, and then I have basically taken the tails from my asparagus. So I've got about 8 asparagus here. I'm making this as if it serves 2, so if you want to make it for more people then obviously add a few more vegetables to this, but I'm making this as if it serves 2. So I have taken the ends from the asparagus, so basically I just broke them off, and I'm going to put those in, and then I just simply quartered 1 fennel bulb. Fennel I can buy in my local supermarket, and I'm actually growing in my garden at the moment as well, so I'm hoping that turns out okay. It is quite a strong flavour, fennel, but it is really tasty. I find it really delicious, I have to say. So I'm just going to add that, and then I've got 2 garlic bulbs, and I've got to go and get some olive oil and some salt. So I've grabbed my olive oil and my salt, and I'm just going to drizzle these vegetables with the olive oil and the salt. I'm just going to put a pinch or 2 of salt on. Thankfully, well I say thankfully, my husband and son don't really enjoy this soup, so this is all for me. So I'm making this for 1, and then I'm going to put a little bit in the freezer as well because it freezes really well too. And now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to grab my oven gloves because my pan is hot, and I'm just going to toss all of the ingredients in the oil and the salt, and now I'm going to put this into the oven for about 25 to 30 minutes or until everything goes a lovely golden brown colour. Next I'm going to start to prepare my ingredients for my chickpea flour wraps. So here I have simply peeled and sliced and diced 1 whole beetroot. In the original recipe I think I said 2 small, and this is 2 small-ish. I'm actually only going to make the beetroot chickpea flour wraps for myself today, so I'm going to make it as if it serves 1. So I'm only going to use about half of this beetroot, and the rest I will eat later. But yeah, so I've peeled, sliced and diced 1 whole beetroot, and I'm going to put that again into a warm baking tray. I've put my oven gloves over there, that's what I'm looking for. Silly me. Anyway, and now I'm going to add some olive oil to the base of the tray, like so. And then I'm also going to add a pinch or 2 of salt, and the salt just brings out the flavour in the vegetables. It doesn't really do anything else, to be honest. Is it the right shoulder you meant to throw it over to get rid of the devil? I think that's the one. Anyway, I'm just going to grab my oven gloves, and now what I'm going to do is, again, I'm going to toss these ingredients in the oil and the salt. So I'm just going to toss everything together like so, and I'm going to put this into the oven as well for about 25 to 30 minutes or until everything goes a lovely golden brown colour. As you can see, the fennel and asparagus have started to go a lovely golden brown colour, and I think the garlic is cooked as well. So I'm going to remove this from the oven, I'm going to leave this to cool, and I'm leaving my beetroot in the oven because that went in slightly later, so I shall put that on the top shelf in a moment, and then I will deal with the chickpea flour wraps later on. I've left the asparagus to cool, and I have peeled the garlic as well, so I'm just going to throw the skins in the bin. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add all of these ingredients into my blender. So here I have about 500 ml of milk. I have a cashew nut milk here, but you can use any type of milk you like. And then I'm going to add in my vegetables. I do have some tongs here because I didn't want to make my hands all greasy while I was doing this. So I'm just going to put these in with the tongs, like so. So I have the fennel, and I have the asparagus here, and I have the garlic as well. It all smells delicious too, I have to say. It does smell lovely. So I'm just going to put all of those into the blender, and then to that I'm going to add a couple of tablespoons of nutritional yeast as well, and this just gives it a bit of extra flavour, and it, oh, if I don't spill it everywhere, that is. It just gives it a bit of extra flavour and a bit more of a taste, I'd say. And then to that I'm going to add in some beans. So I have halved the ingredients. I think this recipe actually serves 4. So I did 200 beans, 200 grams of dried beans, but I've done 100 for this recipe because I've halved the ingredients. In the original recipe I think I actually used a tin of butter beans. Cannellini beans and butter beans are fairly similar, so I've just used cannellini beans and I've used dried ones. When I wrote that recipe, it was a while ago and we were using tin beans, and I've kind of moved on from tin beans now. I actually prefer using dried ones just because I think it's a bit healthier for you, and I don't mind soaking them overnight and then boiling them. That doesn't bother me. I find other things to do while I'm boiling them on the stove. So yeah, so I've got about 100 grams of cannellini beans here that I'm going to add to the blender. And then I'm going to add a little bit of salt and pepper as well. Salt and pepper to your taste. If you don't like it, then obviously don't use it. But if you like a bit more than I'm putting in, then please put more in. I only like a little bit of salt and pepper. I'm a bit like my son. I don't like things too peppery. So now what I'm going to do is I am going to hopefully blend these ingredients together. No, I'm not, because I haven't turned it on at the wall, so I'm just going to go and turn this on at the wall. There we go. I'm going to turn this on now. I've blended the soup until it is smooth, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pour about half of this into a saucepan, and then I'm going to heat it through once I've made the chickpea flour wraps, but I'm going to go and make the chickpea flour wraps next. The beetroot I put in here earlier has started to go a lovely golden brown colour as well, so I'm going to remove this from the oven now, and I'm going to leave this to cool as well. I have set the soup to one side for the moment, so I will heat that up later once I start cooking these. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to add a teaspoon of dried mixed herbs to about 60 grams of chickpea flour. In the original recipe, I think I said 120 because this serves 2, maybe, I think. I'm not too sure, but I'm just doing this as if it serves 1. So if you want to make it for 2, then double up and triple up and quadruple up if you're making it for more, obviously. And then I'm going to add in a teaspoon of baking powder to that as well. And the baking powder just helps the chickpea flour wraps become light and fluffy. I find they tend to turn out more like pancakes if you don't add the baking powder. So if you like a pancake, then obviously don't add the baking powder, but I much prefer it a bit lighter and fluffier. I'm also going to add a pinch of salt as well to this, like so. And then I've got the liquid that I want to add to this. So what I'm going to do, again, I've got about 100 mils of cashew milk, so you can use any milk of your choice, and in the original recipe I think I said 200 mils, and I'm just going to add that to the blender. Sorry, is that on properly? Yep, that's on properly. And then I'm going to add about half of the beetroot that I just cooked in the oven, so I'm just going to add that in as well. And then I'm going to go and get my lid for my blender. So I grab my lid, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to blend these ingredients together. So I'm just going to mix the baking powder and the dried mixed herbs into the chickpea flour, and then I'm going to add in the beetroot and milk. So as I said, this is going to turn out like a bit like a pancake. So I'm just going to stir everything together until I make a pancake mixture. So you don't want it too dry, but you also don't want it too wet either. Chickpea flour does glue together quite well as well when you're frying it or when you're making it into a mixture, so don't worry too much. I'm going to add a little bit more of that though, like so. I always think that these would be brilliant on Halloween as well, because it looks like blood, doesn't it, at the moment? Beetroot is such a brilliant thing to have on Halloween, but it doesn't grow in this country at that time of year, so sadly, you'd either have to import it from abroad or not have it at all, really. So anyway, I'm now going to go and cook off these chickpea flour wraps. As I said, I'm going to cook off these chickpea flour wraps, so I'm going to put a frying pan onto a high heat on my hob. I'm going to add oil to the base of that pan, like so, and then I'm just going to leave the pan to heat up. The pan is getting hot, I can see there's bubbles in the oil, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add about half of this mixture to the frying pan, like so, and I'm just going to spread the mixture as evenly as I can across the base of the pan, like so, and then I'm just going to leave this to heat up, and hopefully what's going to happen is the outside, oh, I've got some on my finger, the outside of the pan, of the wrap or pancake really, is going to cook, and then once it cooks around the outside you can then flip it over and cook the other side. Also, it will go nice and bubbly in the middle as well when it starts to cook. As you can see, there's little bubbles coming now. So once it starts to cook around the outside and the bubbles start to really come out, I can then flip it over. So I can see it started to cook around the outside, and there are some bubbles in the middle as well, or sinkholes I suppose. And now what I'm going to do is just flip that over, and I'm just going to cook the other side, and then I will repeat the process with the rest of the mixture. So the pan is starting to get a little bit hot, so I'm just going to turn that down, and I'm just going to flip this over, and as you can see that's cooked. So as I said, I'm going to repeat the process with the rest of the mixture. So I've finished heating the soup through, and I've finished making the chickpea flour wraps. The second one was a little bit smaller than the first one, but never mind. And now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to give this soup a little try. So I'm just gonna, oh, that's really good. And I'm just gonna dunk a bit of the beetroot chickpea flour wrap into the soup, because it has to be done. That's really nice as well. They really complement each other very well. So I'm really pleased with that, and I'm really looking forward to that for my lunch today. That's how you make my delicious creamy fennel and asparagus soup with a beetroot chickpea flour wrap, and that recipe I will link in the description box below for you. As I mentioned earlier, I'm going to be having this for my lunch today, and it smelled and tasted so good, I can't wait. So for now, that's it from me. Thank you so much for watching. Please feel free to give me a big thumbs up if you enjoyed this video, and please feel free to leave any comments below. And please don't forget to hit that subscribe button. See you all soon. Bye.